Hey guys, welcome back to another YouTube video. Today we are doing a really quick update on Percy Jackson Season 2. So last week on May 2nd, Rick posted a new blog post where he talks about a whole lot of things, but he does give us quite a few updates on Percy Jackson Season 2. And we also have some other news from some other media outlets that I want to talk about. So in Rick's blog post, the first thing he tells us is that him and Becky are still executive producers of the show, just like they were for Season 1, which I wouldn't expect anything less. Rick has been reading every outline and every script for the show, and he has been leaving extensive notes on them as he goes. But he does point out in his blog post that TV is a team effort. No one person can fully dictate what happens in a TV show, which I think is kind of funny. I think he is throwing a little bit of shade at people that were critiquing season 1 of Percy Jackson and said Rick ruined this, Rick messed this up, when Rick is not the one making the final decisions here. So I do think that he kind of said that on purpose. Just because Rick created the books, that doesn't mean that he is the end all be all, and that doesn't mean that he has the final say in everything that happens in the show. I actually think he doesn't have any final say because he doesn't own his books. I think like Hollywood owns them. He talked about that in a different blog post at one point. So it's a team effort. So if you don't like it, you have to blame the whole team. Rick confirms for us that season 2 will also be an 8-episode layout just like season 1. Now, when this news came out, a lot of people kind of were losing their minds a little bit, which I think is sort of funny. I remember when season 1 was coming out, a lot of people were like, oh, I hope next season has much longer episodes, which is so funny because I actually just finished a rewatch of Percy Jackson literally today for my Patreon. I've been doing commentary tracks for Percy Jackson over my Patreon. And as I finished episode 8 today, I realized that I actually quite like the runtimes of all the episodes in season 1. They're kind of perfect, especially if you're watching multiple episodes in a row. But a lot of people were saying that they really hope that the runtimes are longer in season 2. And also a lot of people were really hoping that we would get more than 8 episodes. And to that, I have to say, you guys do know that Sea of Monsters is the shortest book out of all of them, right? I would be shocked if the runtimes of episodes in Sea of Monsters are longer than any of the runtimes in season 1. I do think that there's definitely a lot that they can add to the show because, like we've said multiple times, one benefit of the show is that we get to see it in a third-person perspective instead of Percy's first-person perspective. So, in the show, they can add scenes that Percy might not necessarily be seeing. We can cut back to Luke and see what Luke is doing a lot. So there's definitely a lot of things that they can add to the show, but I still don't think the runtime is going to change all that much. I personally am fine with that, at least when it comes to Sea of Monsters. Maybe as the books go on, I'd like to see the runtime go up a little bit, but for Sea of Monsters, it's a really short book, man. It's a really, really short book. So season 2 being 8 episodes doesn't bother me. I fully expected it to still be 8 episodes. According to Rick, half of the scripts for the episodes are done and the other half are still in progress, but Rick is very pleased with the results so far. The design team has already started working on the sets for the show, and they've also started the artwork for the creatures, which I am very excited for. I loved the way that the creatures looked in season 1, most notably the Chimera. I think that the design for the Chimera was fantastic and it looked incredible. I also think the Minotaur looked great, so I'm really excited to see how they make some of the monsters look in season 2. Most notably, I'm excited for the Scylla. I think that's how it's pronounced. The Hydra, and I'm really excited to see what they make the sirens look like. I'm curious if they're gonna go more of a mermaid route or more of a scary siren mermaid route. I can't wait. Rick also talks a little bit about the casting process of season 2. As of right now, there are no open casting calls. If you don't know what an open casting call is, basically what it means is that sometimes TV shows or movies will have an open casting call, meaning it's open to everybody. You don't really need acting experience to apply for it. You don't really need an agent to get you the audition because it's open to everybody. They are not having any open casting calls for Percy Jackson season 2. So all of the casting is closed. And when we say closed casting, that doesn't mean that it's finished. Closed just means you have to be a legit actor. You have to have an agent and a management and all that stuff. But anyways, Rick tells us that the casting conversations for season 2 have only just begun. They haven't really started doing any of the casting yet. Or if they have, that's not really on Rick yet. Most of that relies on the casting director, and then the casting director will send video auditions to the producers, and that's when Rick will see it. So long story short, any casting announcement is still very far away. In Rick's blog post, he also tells us that there will not be a book tour. tour for Percy Jackson Wrath of the Triple Goddess, which is the next Percy Jackson book that he has coming out. And the reason that there's not going to be a book tour is because I believe the book comes out in the fall and they fully expect to be back to filming for season 2 by fall. So he wouldn't want to like leave set for a book tour, basically. This is good news for the show because that means that they fully expect to be back to filming by fall of 2024, which is pretty good timing. If you watched my last season 2 update video, I kind of created an ideal timeline for the show based on how long it took them to do certain things in season 1 to sort of see like when season 2 could possibly be coming out. And in my timeline, I say that I expect them to start filming season 2 around June or July of this year, which is only like a few months before fall technically starts. So they're pretty much on my ideal schedule. That pretty much does it for the updates that we have from Rick's blog, but we do have another update from a different source that I want to talk about. So over the past week, there was actually a little bit of discourse in the Percy Jackson fandom on Twitter. We got news, or so we thought we got news, that the showrunners for Percy Jackson season 1, who are Jonathan Steinberg and Dan Schatz, we got news that they left the show, that they left Percy Jackson and were going to go finish showrunning on this other show that they're part of called The Old Man. And they were replaced by Craig Silverstein, who is the writer of episode 8. So it's safe to say that Twitter was in shambles when we got that news. Everyone was kind of freaking out because we all really like Dan and John. And like there's so many set photos of Dan and John with the cast, and like they're kind of like the fathers of Percy Jackson in a way. And I do think Dan and John definitely like really understand the characters of Percy Jackson, and they also definitely understand Percabeth. So all the Percy Jackson fans were definitely heartbroken when we got this news. I know I was freaking out a little bit, and I think that we thought this because of something I want to say Becky posted on Threads, which she's deleted by now because Becky kind of like word vomits on Threads sometimes and doesn't really think about what she's saying or how she's phrasing it. But never to fear, because like 48 hours later, we got like a more official announcement about it. Jonathan Steinberg and Dan Schatz are not leaving the show. They're still showrunners. Craig Silverstein has just been added in addition to Dan and John as a showrunner to season 2. So now our showrunners for season 2 include Jonathan Steinberg, Dan Schatz, and Craig Silverstein, which is great because we get to keep Dan and John, which are two people that seemingly really understand the show and understand the characters. And we also get Craig Silverstein added, who wrote episode 8, which, if you ask me, is probably the best episode of the entire show. It's so funny because I quite literally just finished rewatching episode 8 for my Patreon, like literally an hour ago. So episode 8 is very recent in my mind. And it really is such a good episode of the show. Like, it moves at a perfect pace. It's done really well. And he wrote that. So him being a showrunner isn't necessarily a scary thing. Like, when we thought that he was replacing Dan and John, I wasn't stressed out that Craig was going to be the showrunner. I was more like sad that Dan and John had left. But it was a false alarm. It was fake news. They didn't leave. They're still there. They're still showrunners. They're still very involved. They just also have added Craig to the team, which I think is super exciting. That pretty much does it though for our updates on season 2 of Percy Jackson. It's not too much, but it's definitely enough where I wanted to let you guys know what was happening, because I doubt a lot of people are actively checking Rick's blog. Unlike me, I check his blog like once a week. Make sure you follow me on all my other social media so you don't miss out on anything else. Make sure you check out my podcast that I have with my boyfriend. And most notably, like I've mentioned a couple times in this video, I have a Patreon where I do reaction videos and commentary tracks. Over on Patreon right now, you can watch all of my full reaction videos to Percy Jackson season 1, and you can also watch my commentary tracks to season 1 of Percy Jackson. If you don't know what a commentary track is, it's basically where you play me at the same time as playing the episode, and I'm like commentating on it, talking over it, giving my thoughts on it, talking theories to you guys basically. It's a really fun way to watch a show. So if you're a big Percy Jackson fan, you should definitely go over to my Patreon and check that out because it is worth it, trust me. Overall, just make sure you subscribe to me here on YouTube, like this video, comment down below if you are excited for season 2 of Percy Jackson, because I know I am. Like I said, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on any other Percy Jackson season 2 updates, because anytime we get an update, I'm going to be letting you guys know. But that does it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all next time.